So 14.6 includes 3 features, and then I'll talk about one bonus feature that's not pictured here for a specific reason, but we essentially tweaked the daily Scrum. We've centralized list types, and we've also revamped the UI for importing data. Essentially what this release was about is we were focusing on updating the last remnants of V10 pages that we had in the Axosoft product. And so we wanted to update all of those pages so that they were consistent with the rest of the application. And then we also introduced just a little tweak to the daily Scrum to allow you to filter down to your specific team. And so let's actually take a look at that. And so what I'll do here is I'll switch over to the Axosoft application itself. And so you should be seeing Axosoft. We are airing on our screen. If for whatever reason you can't hear me or you can't see the screen, please let us know. Just either send us a question or send us a chat if you're unable to see anything. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to launch the daily Scrum for this particular sprint. And I'll just show you the quick tweak that we made. And so I'll launch the daily Scrum. Let's pull it out. Let's expand the window. And so essentially, the daily Scrum, as James will go into, was introduced in one of the last 3 releases that we had. And what we've introduced is the ability to just insert the team that you want to see. So dev team includes everyone but James. And so you can go ahead and filter your daily Scrum even further, just so you can go ahead and move along from one person to another. We introduced this because we understand that teams, your dev team might be broken into subgroups, and so we want to make it easy for each subgroup to go ahead and each sub-team to go through and get through each of their, answering those 3 major questions in the daily Scrum. What did we do yesterday? What are we doing today? What problems are we having? And then you can go we'll go more in depth about what the daily Scrum can do in James's part. So if you're interested in learning more about how to use this, what can it do, how can I best implement this, then please stay around for the bonus material after this 14.6 update. So the next 2 components, and then I have one extra thing to talk about as well, has to do with what I mentioned earlier, with the version 10 pages being updated. The main 2 version pages that we updated were list types and pick lists. And so we've essentially merged these 2 into one location. So before, you would go to Tools, Fields, List Types, and then you also had an option for pick lists. Pick lists, the option is now gone and is now integrated with the list types. So before, we would call things like, if you had a custom field that used a pick list, then you would create a pick list just for it. So instead of doing that, you would actually create the list here. So everything here is now just called a list. So the list types are faded in gray. These are things that come with the system already built in. So these things include status, priority, the work log types. All of this, of course, can be customized, so you can add your own values. You can reorder how they appear in the list. And then, of course, you can create your own pick list from here. So one that I want to create is, let's do state. Here we go. Oh, here we go. So I click on state, and I'm going to go ahead and add a list value. So I'll do just a couple states. So the great and sovereign state of California, and then we'll go ahead and add another item here. I'll do Arizona, which is where Axosoft is located. Splendid. And so just in case you want to play around with this, the structure that you create here on the left side is going to mirror the options that you have here on the right side. So here I have city, and underneath it I'll have states. And so if I want to add options for cities in Arizona, I'll go ahead and click this plus sign, and I'll say Phoenix. It's our capital here. And so underneath I'll have Phoenix. Great. And then I'll create another option. We'll do Scottsdale, which is where we're located. And so you kind of get the idea here that this is how you can nest your pick list underneath another pick list. And so I highly encourage you to play around with this. Just to summarize again, so the structure I have here, I have city and then state. And then, of course, I have the state. I have the state and then the city. And then here I have the state and then the cities, and so on and so forth. So I highly encourage you to play around with that. Hopefully that'll be useful for some of you there. So if you're a frequent importer, then you already know that if you go to Tools, Utilities, Import Data, that it brings you up the screen that you've probably seen a million times. But here we've updated a few things. First of all, any delimiters that you want to include or surrounding characters are under advanced options. So they're still there. We just choose to put them under advanced options in case most folks really don't use those. And then when you go to choose a file, so I'll go ahead and bring up this doc here, this user story CSV. Let's go ahead and open this up. And you'll notice the same behavior as before. Everything has just been updated in terms of the UI. So you'll get a quick preview as you may have seen before. And like before, you're able to also create templates for how you like your CSV file to map into the items that you create. So I don't think I have any templates saved at the moment, so let's go ahead and create one. So for example, if I wanted my actual duration to map to a different field, I'll go ahead and save this. I'll call this the MRO template. And essentially by saving the template, I don't have to create the complex or just a numerous number of mappings that I have. I can just go to the drop-down menu and it'll bring up all the mappings that I have saved before. And so once you import, I think I may need to specify a project. So you can go ahead and import them, and then all those items will be created successfully under the project that you specified. Okay, so we've covered the tweak to Daily Scrum. We've touched on the updates that we've made. So any V10 pages, all of them have been updated. So that includes pick lists, list types, and importing. Import is still separate under Utilities and the Tools menu, but pick lists and list types have been combined into one option. And then Brett is going to cover the last thing that we introduced in 14.6, which is related to custom integrations. So that's going to be related to anyone who takes advantage of our API to build cool things that make Axosoft do even cooler things.
Let me just go ahead and close this out. So the last one that we added in our 14.6 release is actually kind of a cool feature and can be used in a variety of ways. I'm just going to kind of demonstrate a very simple use case for it. But what it is that we have the ability to basically just launch a new window that can be integrated with other systems, really whenever you move an item to another workflow step. All right. So let me just kind of give you a little example of this. Let's say that, for instance, whenever I complete a feature, I've got to update a budget somewhere, which is it might be like a Google Doc spreadsheet that I have, just letting them know how much money I've actually spent completing that item. This is, of course, just an ancillary example. There are a number of other usages for this, but we actually had this as a new extension now. So if you go to Tools and then Manage Extensions, one of the options that we have here is called Custom Integrations, which allows you just to kind of integrate with a number of other applications. Here, I already have one created as an example, but let me just show you how we would create it from scratch. So if you just go ahead and click Add, you can go ahead and give it a name. So I'll just say that this is connecting to my Google Sheet budget. Okay. And then what will happen is that whenever I move into a particular workflow step, say that I'd be moving an item to be completed, I want to launch that Google spreadsheet. So let me just go ahead and grab the URL and just paste it right there. Okay, so this is really a simple example, but you'll also notice that you can actually insert placeholder values. So if you also wanted to insert, something like the actual customer name or the item ID, and insert it in that query parameter, you can actually do so as well. All right, so I just went ahead and I added that as a custom integration to my lists. And now I can state, okay, whenever I move an item to a particular workflow step, let's just go ahead and update that value. So if I just go to Manage My Workflow, and let's just say, okay, whenever I complete the item, if I go under Other Settings, it's just kind of a mishmash of where we can do just add a lot of integrations. One of the options that we added here with 14.6 is this bottom one here, for actually launching that window. And now if you click on this option, we can see that it now has my budget available. And whenever I just take an item, let's just say that I have this item to create new security roles. I go ahead and move it to completed. Oh, sorry, I think it actually needed to. It prompted me to refresh, and I said no, so I ignored the system wanting to help me out. But yeah, so let's just take this item where I'm adding quick calc data, and now when we go ahead and complete it, it's actually going to yell at me because I've got my pop-up blocker on, and it'll just ask you to allow that option. But if I go ahead and allow it to pop up, we can see it just went ahead and launched this Google spreadsheet where I can now go and update any of the values that I would need. All right, so there's really just tons of different uses for this, and we just kind of wanted to make it as general as possible. But the ability to pass in parameters really from any of the item fields whenever you move an item to a workflow step is very helpful. All right, great. So that's it for the most part for 14.6. However, we noticed that it's been a while since we've done one of these webinars, so we also want to cover a lot of the options that we've added since our last webinar, which was right around 14.3. So if we go back to our Prezi, we can see some of the things we've added with 14.3 and on. One of the biggest things was that we added just the ability to include teams. We've also updated some localization options for any of you guys around the world that want to go ahead and set to different time zones. We also made a couple of updates to dashboards, added some SMS notifications, and are always improving our UI. In 14.4, we made it easier just to go ahead and add new users just with adding tutorials. So if you're a new team that's started since 14.4, these are some of the things that you notice just right after logging in. Or if you're an existing team, every time you add a new user, it'll just kind of have a quick little tutorial pointing out some of the features that they have. And then 14.5 and on, we added a couple options just to print from your grid view and from your card view, which I'll demonstrate, which are really quite helpful and handy, as well as having a couple other helpful administrative features for email warnings if there are any issues with sending emails, and also the ability to make dashboards public. All right. So let me just go ahead and give a quick overview of some of these features. Like I mentioned, probably one of the biggest ones that we have added is we updated the user's control to support both users and teams. So right here, I just kind of have everything labeled out. I've got a couple of teams for like my dev team, sales team, support team, right here. So it's really just a way for you to group users in any way that's kind of helpful for you. And you can also have any number of sub-teams. So right now I've just got my developer team, but something that's pretty common is now is actually pair programming. So say that you're someone that is trying out doing pair programming in your team, and now you want to actually add different pair options. So this would be, I don't know if it's typical that they actually name their pairs, but if I wanted to name it Dave, Dennis, so I'll just keep this very kind of simple. You could just type in the name of any of the users here. All these are actually inactive, so it's not allowing me to move them to my team right here. But you should be able to, I believe, drag and drop these users as well. So you can see that I've got a team that's just called Dave and Dennis. And then if I go and just set up another one as well for, let me drag and drop this one there. And if I wanted to create another one for Drew, it allows me to, assign things to the team. So whenever you do actually assign items to a team, if you do have any notifications that are scheduled to be sent out, perhaps you have a notification that's set up if anyone updates an item to notify the person that it's assigned to. If it's assigned to a team, then it'll actually notify all of the members of that team. So everyone kind of gets that notification as well. All right. So for teams, you can, like I mentioned, just have any number of orders that you have. And you'll also notice that if you've been using Axosoft for a while, if you haven't upgraded to 14.3 or later, we've actually updated the assigned to control. So it's this little combo box right here. So you can just start typing the name of a team or of any members, and it'll just go and pop it up. So it's this is a section, exceptionally good for our very, very large teams, ones that have teams of 100 or more people, rather than having to sort through that huge list. Just start typing the first couple letters of their name, and it'll go ahead and pop it out. All right. So in addition to teams, some of the other kind of like big features that we've added is, like I mentioned, the ability to print from either the list view or the card view. And this is great because it makes it very easy just to kind of create like drop of the hat reports. So right now I've got a very simple list. I'm just only showing low priority items. But let's say I want to look at just items in my iOS app, and I don't need the actual duration field. I can actually remove this. I don't need the archived field, and not even the show column. Okay, so what you can actually do is add and organize any of the columns that you would want just right here in your view, and you can just go ahead and drag and drop. Oh, sorry, that was I accidentally hit the back on my keyboard. But you can actually just go and drag and drop any of the columns just to rearrange. And based on what options you have currently selected, now when you actually go and print, it'll remember all the orders of your columns and give you a good printer-friendly view. So a couple other neat things about this is that it does include all of your filters that you have. So if you run a report, you don't really need to remember, oh, well, what subset of items was I looking at? It'll actually go ahead and let you know exactly any of the filters that you have. And also some of the cool things that it does is that it also includes any of your grouping options that you have. So one of the things I like to do is just go ahead and group everything by who it's assigned to. So this is a great way just to kind of get like a good, quick user workload. And then say I want to use a filter. I've got one that just says everything that's not closed. So this is all open and in progress work. So just by filtering everything that is that's currently open and right-clicking to group by the assigned to, now when I go and print, it'll include all those options in the printer-friendly view as well. So this is something that you can, of course, print out, but you can also print to a PDF, which is great for just kind of having those snapshots if you want to have just kind of electronic record as well. So really all that this does is just gives a nice little printer-friendly view and includes all of the summary information that you would have just normally within Axosoft, just giving the totals for each group. All right. So, we of course didn't want to limit this to just the really to just the list view. We can also go and print out the card view as well. Let me just go ahead and nix my grouping here. So I'll just show everything by column. So this one's going to be very boring because I just have everything in progress and new. But if I drag and drop something just to be ready for testing, we can get a little bit more variation. But we can also go and print out the card view. So this will actually just show everything in the columns out there as well. We even have a lot of teams that like to have all their items in Axosoft, but like to have a little real life tactile experience. And we even have teams that go and create all their cards, print them out, cut them all out. It's a bit tedious, but then you could actually just tack them on the wall if you want to, just to go ahead and organize for some of your meetings. So a lot of our teams kind of do that, and it's kind of a good way just to really easily get all that information out in the physical world. All right. So what I'm going to do is actually just pull up right now our Axosoft.com page. And if you click on the support link at the top, I'm just going to pull up our version history under our documentation. And this, of course, just goes over all the things we've added since 14.6. So if you really want to take a closer look at all of the additional features that we've added, you can go and get even more detailed notes for each of the releases. But probably the other big one that I want to talk about is the ability now to share dashboards with anyone, and they don't even need an Axosoft login. So this is great for just sharing, dashboards and any type of information with, executives or people that, they just want to see how you're doing. They don't care to have another account and set up. You just want to be able to shoot them a quick link just so they can kind of get a good overview as to everything that's going on. So if we go ahead and switch over to the dashboard, this is just a simple dashboard that we have just for the current sprint. Everything's looking good, looking like I'm getting ready to ship, actually a day early on February 4th. And if we go ahead and edit this sprint, one of the options that we have is that we can go ahead and create a URL for public access. So this URL isn't going to actually require any login. This does actually connect using our RESTful API, so it's just asking me if I want to enable the setting. Sorry, I need to go ahead and turn that on first. If you get the same thing, you can actually just enable API access just by going to Tools, System Options. Then if we click on Axosoft API access, just go ahead and make sure that it's enabled so that we then actually have this expanded options for either creating dashboards or really just doing any type of integrations with your account. All right, so now when I go back to dashboard settings, we'll see the option to actually go ahead and create a dashboard URL. All right, and this one right here, it's a long URL, but we actually just have a quick copy to clipboard. And actually, let me open up an incognito window. So now I'm not logged in. I don't have anything going on. And I can actually pull up that exact dashboard that I was just looking at. So some of the neat things about this is that you can even post this just on your website now and just share anything with really any of your shareholders that want to see kind of like your progress of what's going on. If you have some highly valued customers that are in stake that you're actually doing contract work for them, and they want to see the progress of everything that they have stated in their contract, it's a good way just to be able to share those as well. You can go ahead and just add a password for it. So if you want to go ahead and add a little bit of security, just so it's not easily publicly shareable, you can go ahead and add a password to the page. And then if there is any concern about privacy or people sharing it, you could always just go ahead and nix that URL and delete it and remove access, just in case if you had shared it with people that had gone ahead and leaked it and added it elsewhere. All right, great. So those are most of like the big things that we have added. At least like the big features we've added. A lot of them are mostly just a lot of enhancements just with usage of the actual application. Couple of small little notes in case you missed them, because it's something that could have probably easily gone overlooked, is that in 14.3, probably one of the most requested features that we have had is just the ability just to copy and paste images directly into Axosoft. So this is a great, especially for us in customer success when we want to go and just shoot off, if we want to give a screenshot of something, I can actually just create a quick screenshot. So it's pretty ancillary, but I'm doing that right here. And now if I want to go ahead and actually shoot that off in an email to a customer, let me just go ahead and pull this off. Do I not have? Oh, that's right, because I'm in bugs. I don't have an emails tab on here by default. So for help desk, I would probably have one. But I should actually have my email option. There we are. Now if I go to click to write a new email, I can just go ahead and paste that. Oh, sorry. I think it was, I may have done the wrong keyboard shortcut. There it is. Okay. I actually did control function command for rather than control shift command for. All right, so this is great. You can actually just go and paste images directly from any application, and you can also just go and drag and drop them natively right into this field, which is great for your help desk teams that shoot off a lot of screenshots just to go ahead and assist your customers. All right, and then one of the other big things that we have added is actually just the ability just to copy items just by using their URL. So for this, if you have something that you want, if you have a bug that you want to link a customer directly to the customer portal, or if you want to share something with another user and you don't want to have to say, oh, look at item ID number 4, and then they have to go and log in and find the item and search for it. We actually have the option now, if you right click, just to copy the item URL, and then this will say either just the web item URL, which is just if they're an Axosoft user, but if they're a customer and they access information through your customer portal as well, you can go ahead and just link that. And that'll just go ahead and copy it to your clipboard, and you can send it off into an email that would go ahead and allow them just to access directly the item that they're interested in. Which just makes it a lot easier just to communicate with your customers. What exact item they're looking at, so you can go ahead and collaborate. All right, and then lastly, we just wanted to say thank you all for coming. We do have our contact information here. I've been Brett. Jonathan's over there. We also have, of course, our phone number there. And also, you can always just get in touch with us at success@axosoft.com. Really, over anything that you, any questions you might have with the Axosoft product suite, or just really anything that you would have covered in this webinar.